Coping with COVID and In It Together SC present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. I'm Tre Tailor, and today we're coping with grief and moving on. It's National Widows Awareness Month, and Cherisse Branch and Demetra Bush join us. Thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to a conversation with you and all of the great things you're doing for ladies that are moving past grief. Plus, it's Black Music Month, and we resume our conversation from last week about music as a healer. Mark Rapp with Cola Jazz will join us along with gospel artist Algeron Wright. Plus, we'll hear from nurse practitioner Dr. Jennifer Rice on how all of this ties in medically. Thank you all again so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council on Coping with COVID. But first, your COVID community updates. The City of Columbia and Serve and Connect will have a gun lock event, Lock It Up, in the Belmont community at Collington Street in Columbia. This is the first of many firearms safety events, raising awareness and providing options to store firearms safely. You can see the flyer on the screen. Early voting begins today through the 28th for the South Carolina primary runoffs. Polls are open from 8:30 until 5 o'clock at your local county voter registration and elections office. Now, don't forget, you must present your ID. A couple of races to note: State Superintendent of Education on the Republican ticket, Kathy Mattis and Ellen Weaver. Also, U.S. Senate Democrat. The runoff for this race will face Republican Tim Scott in the November general election. That's between Christine Matthews and Catherine Fleming Bruce, and also Richland County Council 11. This is also a Democratic race between Shaquise Newton and Norman Jackson. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date list of times, dates, and location for COVID testing and vaccinations in and around South Carolina. And as you may have heard, and we'll talk to Dr. Jane Kelly, retired epidemiologist with SCDHEC. Now, vaccinations are available for children beginning at 6 months of age. Like I said, we'll talk to Dr. Kelly tomorrow about that. But you can visit scdhec.gov for more information. Now, scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show, you'll see all types of information that's available throughout the show, including where you can get 5 free rapid self-COVID tests by logging on to covidtest.gov. Also, COVID vaccines are available for all veterans at the VA. That information is also on the screen. You'll see information about the several retail locations throughout the state and the country that also offer COVID vaccinations, including Kroger, CVS, and Walgreens. And don't miss your shot. You can catch a free ride to get to your COVID vaccination, and you can get a COVID vaccination at the Comet Bus System in Columbia, South Carolina. Their main location is at the corner of Sumter and Laurel Streets. Now, if you or someone you know is having some challenges making their COVID appointment for a vaccination, they can call Get Set Up, and they can help you get set up for your vaccination. We also have several financial resources available that will be scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show, including a COVID funeral reimbursement. FEMA is giving reimbursements to loved ones who have had a family member pass away from COVID. You can see that information on the screen. Also, SC Bar Association and SC Legal Services has a toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. Lexington County has a bill assistance program. SC Housing and Dominion Energy has a rental and utilities assistance program. And SC Hopes has a 24-hour assistance line from the South Carolina Department of Mental Health. Now, we also shared you information last week about ways to cool off in this extreme heat, and heat is still a issue in South Carolina and across the country. The City of Columbia has misting stations from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. at several parks and community centers throughout the city. Also, don't forget about the tips that the CDC is recommending, that you drink plenty of fluids, stay inside if you don't have to be outside in these triple digits, check on relatives and neighbors, and never, ever, ever leave young children or pets unattended in vehicles. Now, if you do have to spend time outside, if you work outside, reschedule strenuous activities in the early morning or evening. Schedule frequent rest breaks in shaded or air conditioning environments. Also, know the signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. It is an emergency and you should call 911 if you suspect that someone is suffering from a heat stroke. Don't forget about all of that information, and all of that will be scrolling again at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. You're watching Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor, and don't forget, we are streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. Not only will you be able to get notifications about all of the great things they have as far as diabetes prevention programs, health tips, nutrition tips, and so much more. We're also streaming live on the In It Together YouTube channel. Please go over there and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Now, we are also streaming live on the Tailor Made production page. That's the home of Coping with COVID. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. And again, get notifications as to when we go live Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday, and then on Thursday and Friday for Coping with Tre Tailor. We also streaming live on the YouTube channel. Please go over there and hit the subscribe button. We've got over 2.5 years worth of resources, information, interviews, and all types of great information. So please go over there and make that a daily resource for you. We also have a presence on Instagram and also on Twitter. I'm Tre Tailor, and you are on Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. It's National Widows Awareness Month, and we're coping with how to move on and deal with grief. Cherisse Branch, I think she is here with us. She lost her husband after a highly publicized car accident in 2012. She started her nonprofit Storm Survivors to inspire, encourage, and motivate women to move through life's disappointments through education, conferences, and workshops. Cherisse, thank you so much for joining us. Beautiful. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Demetra Bush is also a widow. She lost her husband 3 years ago and is working on helping children who have lost loved ones. So sorry. Is Demetra there? Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today. And please accept our sincere condolences for both of your losses. I want to ask you both. Grieving is such a personal thing, and it's different for everyone.
Mhm.
How did you all cope with the loss of your husbands? Cherisse, you can start if you'd like.
Okay. For me, it was the reality that he wasn't coming home. That's what I had to deal with every day. So I had a mantra, which is kind of weird, but it worked for me. So I would say, Cherisse, Chandy's not coming home. He's gone. So I would have to say it out loud for me to actually hear the words to believe, because you're still going through shock. And we both lost our husband like suddenly. So you're going through the shock of like, is he really not coming home? So that was the starting process for me, is the reality of he's not coming home, right? So that's one of the starter things that I did to kind of help me to start my healing journey. It's a never ending thing when you're grieving. It's a never ending thing when you're trying to process the loss. So that was one of the things that I did. And also I allowed myself to grieve. So if I had to cry in the grocery store, if I had to put it aside on the road and cry, if I had to, wherever I was, if I had to get it out, baby, take me to the king got me all messed up, because that's when that came out. So, but it was a part of releasing. I tell people to release. If you have to dance it out, if you have to cry it out, shout it out, but get it out, because if you don't, it's going to build up and build up and build up. So I'm a firm believer in grieving wherever you are. It doesn't even matter. So
yeah, as I said, Demetra, if you can take yourself off mute so we can hear you. We like I said, we all grieve differently. Demetra, was it similar for you or was it different?
I can say that my experience was a little different. For me, I did, in the way, as Cherisse said, we both lost our husbands unexpectedly. I got a call because I teach elementary. I got a call at work one day, ma'am, your husband has collapsed. He was home with our daughter. At the time was 9 years old. So I had to work through that first of just, yes, that's my sweet pea.
Yes.
So, I had to work through that that I wasn't here when he passed.
Yeah.
The guilt of that. Why didn't I notice something before I left work that morning?
Yes.
But one way that, and I will say this, I had another widow that asked me a few months ago. She lost her husband about year or so ago, around our same age, actually.
Okay.
And she asked me, what did I do to get through? And I tell people often, I traveled.
Yeah.
Gave
You and I both. Yeah.
gave myself permission. I would literally be in the house. I would feel it coming on. And I would say, Lauren, I would yell to the house, Lauren, pack a bag. We're going to Greenville. We're going to Charlotte. We're going to Atlanta, wherever I needed to go. We're going to Asheville. And that's how I made it through the first 2 years.
Got it. Yeah.
Definitely that first year.
Yeah, both of your responses and your reactions to your loss were totally different. You know, Cherisse said she had to walk through the house and say, he's not coming home. He's not coming home. You, on the other hand, Demetra, you kind of use escapism. And I guess for you, was it not being in the place where you were used to him being?
Yes, it had a lot to do with that. Just being home, because I didn't move out of my home. That was my first instinct, was to say, I'm going to move. My daughter told me, I think it was the second day after everything happened, Mommy, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. So I'm going to be honest, I went in survival mode. I start thinking, I got to call a realtor, put my house on the market, because, you know, everything at that time, I was in survival mode for my child, just for myself, but also for my child. You know, she was a daddy's girl, and that's all I could think of. So that I did use escape. Some people did not understand because, you know, they see pictures on Facebook. And so they're like, oh, you must be doing great. And I'm like, no, honey. I'm in survival mode.
Right.
Smiling on these pictures, yes, at the time, but you know, I'm in survival mode. I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to make sure that my 9-year-old is okay, because if I'm not okay, she's not okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, Demetra Bush and Cherisse Branch join us. Cherisse is with Storm Survivors. She started her organization to help women through life's disappointments. Also, Demetra also lost her husband just 3 years ago. And Demetra, you were talking about how you communicated with your daughter. I know that you are actually working on some efforts to help children who lost loved ones. Tell me about those conversations with your daughter. And then Cherisse, you have a son and a daughter too. So I want to get your comments also. Demetra?
The first thing that I had to realize, once I was able to the place where I started to feel to be in a healthy place, I started to realize that it just wasn't Lauren that had lost, you know, a parent, whether it was a father, mother. She has actually a friend that just lost her mother. I believe that was a year ago. So in working in the school system, I started to notice more that children, they had no support, especially peer support. I started going to counseling right away once, you know, everything happened with losing my husband and her father. But children, I see a lack in the community of peer support.
Wow.
For children that have lost parents. So that's what I want to move working on.
And do you think, you and Cherisse think that's important, to have their peer support, someone who is their same age, that is can kind of relate to them, as opposed to someone older saying something that they may not, you know, relate to or understand? Cherisse?
Yeah, it's definitely important to have the like you said, the peer support. I know somebody who's doing like a camp for kids over the summer who's lost their parents, you know, so it's important to have that relatability. Even with widows, I think it's like, we have our friends that talk to us, but I'm like, girl, divorce is not the same. Please don't do that.
Right.
I had to check a couple of people, like, I know you was great. Listen, it ain't the same. So even with the commonality of just that, having that person to say, girl, I get it. I understand. You know, I didn't lose your husband, but I get it. So the relatability of that peer thing is so vital. It's so important for them to understand. And counseling is important too as well.
Your kids were a little younger than Demetra's daughter. Tell us how you were able to talk to your babies.
Yeah, it was hard. and this not they didn't really understand. They kind of was, my oldest, of course, she did, and my youngest two kind of really didn't understand. So they thought, at one time, did he sacrifice his life for them in that way. So it was like a weird kind of thing with them. As they got older, they kind of understood, and I kind of told them what happened, because I even with how it happened was like, how do I say that? Was really kind of hard. So thank God I had people around me that kind of helped me with that as well. So yeah.
In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. Hey, don't forget that you can post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. It's a National Widow Awareness Month. We also want to thank everyone who's watching. Mitchell Peace Joy Jens is a great show plan. Logan Rice says, good luck, mama. And I guess she's one of y'all. So daughter, and want to thank everyone else who's watching. We're going to get Dr. Jennifer Rice in here in just a minute, but I want to ask you ladies, and Cherisse, you touched on this a little bit, that people try to come and, people that you love and care for, we want to be sympathetic, empathetic. We want to say the right thing, but what is the right thing to say and do? Because as you said, it's interesting that you said someone who goes through a divorce will say, oh, I understand, but it's different.
Demetra probably don't check them like I'll be checking them. I'm like, listen, what we ain't gonna do, because it's offensive. So those who are listening, please understand, it's offensive to us to say that you understand if you've gone through a divorce. Do not say that. That's a big no-no, because you might not want to talk to him, but you can. You might not want to see his behind. You can't stand him, but you can. We don't have that opportunity. We don't have that luxury to do that with our spouses. So our late husbands. So that's one of the things do not do. If you say you're going to do something, do it. I know early part of me going through it, I was leaning on people around me to say, if you need something, let me know. Well, I called some people that said that, right? So those are cliche words. Be careful with the words that you say, because I'm calling you like, I need a break. I'm about to break down. These kids are getting on my last. I just need an hour. Oh, I can't come, or whatever it may be. So be careful with those words. If you need something, let me know. I know what you're going through. Even those who lost their mom. I lost my mom too, but it was not the same thing. So we try to kind of relate to people like, well, I kind of keep, it's not, I never lost a child. So I can't say, oh, you lost a child, I lost my husband.
Right. Because loss is not.
It's not. Thank you, Tre. I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna preach that one. I'm about to it's not. It's not. It's not. Like I said, with the child thing, I've never experienced that. Yeah. So I can't say I know what that means. So be careful with the I know why you mean. And like I'm in a different journey with my healing. It'll be 10 years, and my next husband ain't come yet. Y'all keep praying. Anyway, right? But I'm ready. But somebody else may not be ready, right? So I have to respect you on where you are in your journey. Now I will say, girl, we too fine to be out here in the house by ourselves. I will encourage you, because that's how I am. I want to encourage you. But if you need a shoulder to cry on, we need to have a crying session, I'm there for that too. Yeah. So we have to go where people are, So
Demetra, what do you think? What is it that people can do to help you? Or help women that have experienced a loss of their husband?
I think Cherisse did a great job of explaining some things and different, cliches that people say.
Yes, girl.
But, I know for me, my family, thank goodness, including my in-laws, I have to give them so much credit.
Oh, that's awesome.
My family was here, meaning, my personal family, my in-laws were here for me. I would not have made it if it wasn't for my family tied. So if you have someone in your family that is a widow, you have to be there for them to make it through. And if you wasn't close before, my goodness, well, get close. Get over your feelings.
That's right.
Get over your feelings. And, thank goodness I didn't have that horror story of, but get over your feelings. I have literally had one incident I can think of in particular. I literally had a family member to come and get me out of my garage. I'm not going to lie. I was laying on a pile of trash that I had not taken out.
Wow.
He literally got me up, brought me in the house, checked on me, literally wiped my face as though I was 5 years old. So that's one thing that I can say. Family is so important. If you do not have, and family is who we make, right?
That's
Sometimes we
right.
have to cook
That's
our
right.
Right.
My two childhood friends, one that's also a widow, they came busting through my door. I still don't know right today. It's been 3 years, and I still don't know right today how they found out. But they were here. They did not leave my side.
Mm-hmm.
They made sure that Lauren was okay. So for me, it's family ties, and that just doesn't mean your extended family. That could mean your family that's in a house. That could mean your family that you have made over the years.
Right. Right.
Be there for each other.
That's right.
And sometimes you just need someone to listen and just be there. My sister-in-law, she was just here. She didn't talk. Most of the time, I'm not gonna lie, I was in my bed, but she was here. Her presence.
Right.
Um,
It was a feeling of safety, I guess, just to know somebody
Yeah.
else is here
Yeah.
because I
in
felt
case I do need them.
Yeah.
that's a good point, Trey. Because I felt so vulnerable when
Right.
my husband passed. Oh, I felt so vulnerable. And that really did help me to start to build back up my strength, to remember that I can make it, that I am a child of God because I am a believer. And it helped me get my strength back. So yes, community, family.
Right.
I loved, Demetra, that you said you never know who may end up being family, because sometimes the people closest to us, because they're grieving also, can't be there for us because
Girl,
they're
you're
dealing with
right.
their own
Yeah,
stuff.
that's true. Yeah.
So it's good
Yeah.
to hear you say and to know. And I had a situation a couple of years ago where God, and because I'm a believer too, brought some people into my life to help me deal with something when I wanted it to be family, but I had to come to terms with
Yep.
God brought me somebody.
He
That's right.
did.
And
And
they
did.
became family,
Yes.
So family is so much more than blood. And I think you made such a good point that in our grief, for whatever it is, talking about widows now, we have to recognize if someone comes in your life, or if God brings something or someone, that's who we need to rely on.
That's
That's
right.
how he intended us. That's how
Give other people grace, the same grace that we want.
That's right. That's true. That's
Right.
true.
That's
That's true.
exactly
And also, and ask for help if you need help. I think some people might, like I say, in their corner, like, well, I don't want to let them know. If you need help, just say, I need help. It's okay to ask for help.
It's okay to ask for help.
Yes.
Yeah. Cherisse Branch joins us. She's with Storm Survivors, and Demetra Bush also joins us. It's National Widows Awareness Month, and we've been talking about how to deal with the grief of losing your mate. We want to bring in Dr. Jennifer Wright. She is a board-certified family nurse practitioner and also an adjunct professor in the School of Nursing at Clemson University. It says here you've got over 22 years of experience in the nursing field, girl, but you're over there looking like you're 25. So I don't know.
You look great.
I don't know how that works, but look, good black don't crack, right? Hashtag. But Dr. Rice, tell us, how does grief affect us physically?
So there are lots of different methods of, grieving. Some people, like your guest, are grieving the loss of a spouse, but grief also can be from, a relationship breaking up, or which I see a lot of that. It can be from a job change, so some of those major life decisions, from moving. People grieve in their different ways. There's no one particular way that people grieve. So that's definitely not something that I can coach my patients with. But I will have patients who aren't sleeping, because of the grief. I see a lot of chest pain, headaches, tension. I have people that come in and think they have dementia because their memory is just not great. So a lot of the anxiety and depression, those patients, once they reach a breaking point, that's when they finally decide to come in and see a medical provider. And it's unfortunate because a lot of times we aren't used as a resource because people want to rely on friends, which is great. We need that support, just like these ladies have the support from their family and friends. But sometimes when you have that much on your shoulders, especially from when the grieving process of losing a spouse, well, then you have to think about, okay, the financial instability now. You have to think about the child rearing. You have to think about the loneliness. And, all of that compounded on truly does take a physical toll. I've had people whose blood pressures are uncontrolled. I had to take them out of work because they just couldn't focus on their jobs. So I, encourage people to reach out to their medical providers and just make sure that there aren't other causes that are contributing to your symptoms.
Right.
So, I often see people who, are grieving, the loss of something. Fatigue is another big thing, and of course with fatigue, you have that depression, can't get out of bed, but I'm like, okay, I understand what you're going through, but medically, let's just make sure everything is okay, that nothing else is adding to this, so I've seen that before.
Yeah. So, Dr. Rice, you're saying that if we are experiencing grief, it may be that we're really going through a medical time. It may not be all in our heads, as somebody may say, "Oh, girl, it's just all in your head. You're not really ... But grief can have a real physical effect.
Absolutely. The amount of chest pain. I mean, I've done so many EKGs and just trying to reassure people that they weren't having heart attacks, and people coming in that have had panic attacks for the first time. They feel like they're going to die. And then that just, that makes things worse, because then they're like, okay, I'm going to leave my child behind, if they pass. So that makes the panic even worse.
Right. Cherisse, I saw you putting your hand up.
Girl,
Was that some of the
memory.
things you were experiencing?
The memory for me, it's the memory for me. And I'm like, well, maybe because I'm getting older, I know for me, physically, for me, my headspace wasn't right. Like I couldn't focus like the first 2 weeks. I felt like I was there, but not there. Like I was floating, like everybody was around me, but I was in a bubble. I just didn't feel like, I'm like, is this normal? Like, so like I said, first couple of weeks, I just felt like I was in a dream, but like not there,
Right.
I don't remember half the people at the funeral. They have it recorded, so I watched it back. But like I felt like I was an out of body experience. And then I kid you not, I was driving one day and I was just in the car worshiping, and it just lifted for me. And I was sobbing because I said, "Oh, I can see now." But it was like it came for me, and I was so grateful because I was like, "Okay, I could breathe."
Yeah.
But that first, I was just weird. It was just weird. Yeah.
It's interesting, Cherisse, that you mentioned music, because in our next segment, we're going to talk about music as a healer.
Yes.
We're doing a series on that. So, Dr. Rice, before we leave this segment, I want to ask, how can we positively change the effect grief has on our body? Cherisse mentioned music. What are some other ways when we're experiencing grief or whatever situation, whatever trauma we are dealing with, and it is affecting our bodies physically?
Yeah.
How do we change that?
So one of the biggest things that I try and encourage my patients to do is that self-care, things that actually make them happy, because they kind of forget about themselves while they're trying to take care of everyone else. You've got extra, things that are piled on. Well, then you're not taking care of yourself. You're going to feel worse. So if, you're in the plane and you don't have enough oxygen, you have to put your own mask on first before you tend to other people, because otherwise you can't. And so I try and encourage my patients to exercise. That is a wonderful way, for one, to increase the endorphins in the brain. It helps with those happy chemicals. It helps with that anxiety, helps with the stress. A lot of people that are coming in and they have a lot of neck and shoulder pain, the exercise tends to help with that. And usually it's exercise with the music, which has a calming effect. Making sure that they're eating properly, because it is, a lot of times there's loss of appetite. People can't eat at all.
Right.
Or they're going for, things that are comfort foods like sweets. Well, the more carbs and sugar that you're eating, actually the worse the body actually feels. So eating healthier, when someone asks if they can help, asking them to bring some healthy meals,
Right.
not,
Don't bring a red velvet cake.
right. No churches, it needs to be, some fruits and vegetables, some salmon, something that is actually nourishing for the body.
Yeah.
So other than, the rest, the time for themselves, and I tell women specifically, because those are the ones that usually have the most physical manifestations. I tell them take at least an hour to yourself a day. And if that's you turn on, a yoga video on YouTube, because, a lot of us don't do yoga, but it really does help with that, concentrating on the breathing, and just having a time where you're not scrolling on the phone, watching TV. You're not responsible for
just
anything.
Nothing,
Nothing.
Doing nothing.
But you don't have to plan a dinner, go get a pedicure if you can, but a lot of times you can't get away from your kids, but you can close that door for an hour, and just take that time for that meditation for yourself. It really does make a big difference once you actually put the focus on yourself.
A hot bath. Yeah.
A hot bath, yes.
Demetra, did any of these things help you? I saw you react to some of the things that Dr. Rice said.
Yes. To me, you were spot on. When I gave the example of the family member that had to come and get me out of the garage, well, the part that I left out was after she wiped my face and cleaned me up, she actually took me to my doctor. I still thank my nurse practitioner right today. It's 3 years in and I'm doing a lot better and I'm able to smile. But she sat me down and she said, we're going to get you better, because I wasn't okay.
Right.
I had to go
physically, not only emotionally, but physically.
Physically,
and that's the piece I don't think we get. I don't think we parallel grief to it's something physically wrong with me here.
Yeah, it really was. When I went to the doctor that day, just for example, literally my right eye had come in. It was over like in the corner. And I just kept crying and I'm just like, what's wrong with my eye? And I'm like, what's wrong? And she's explaining to me, it's your nerves. Your nerves have, started to kick in. And I know my eyesight like that for at least about a week and a half. Well, if I wouldn't gone to my doctor, I would have thought something was totally, I would have been freaked out, scared. And when you talked about the heart, well, my husband died from a heart attack. I'll never forget. I was on the way at the age of 52. So men, go to the doctor.
Right, girl.
Go to the doctor. Follow up. I'm a huge advocate for that too. But when I was actually on my way to counseling, taking my daughter and myself to counseling, my chest started to tighten. Well, of course, I got scared.
Yeah.
I was 40 years old, but at that time I was like, you know what? He passed at 42. Who says I'm not having a heart attack? I kind of felt, because I've dealt with depression, anxiety in the past, I kind of felt like it was my anxiety, but I couldn't take a chance. Well, I went to the doctor. My nurse practitioner, that's so great, Stephanie Gunn. I put my hand out there, great nurse practitioner. So I thank you all so much, Dr. Rice, for people like yourself. But she didn't just shoot me away and say, no, you just lost your husband. There's nothing wrong. But to ensure myself, she did give me an EKG. She did give me a full body exam that helped mentally and physically. It's amazing how eventually the tightening start to go away. So yes, grief can definitely, I am definitely one that grief did affect me physically.
Yeah.
Really
Demetra, thank you so much just for sharing that. And thank you so much, you and Cherisse, for sharing with us how you have coped during this National Widows Awareness Month. Cherisse, thank you for all that you're doing with storm survivors. Demetra, I know you're getting ready to start your effort with communication with children. Good luck to you. God bless. Please let us know if there's something we can do to help you promote that. Dr. Rice is going to come back with us in the next segment when we talk with gospel artist Algeron Wright. and Mark Rapp and Ebony Ram, both with Cola Jazz, when we cope with music as a healer during this Black History Month. Ladies, thank you so much. We'll be right back next on Coping with COVID from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Sawyer, an entrepreneur and caregiver. Part of taking care of your health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is serious and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. Up to 90% of South Carolinians who have it don't know they have it. Visit inittogethersc.org. Take an online test to find out your risk and join a diabetes prevention program. This message brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of SC.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday life, but when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
Hi, I'm Master Deputy Addie Perez with the Richland County Sheriff's Department Community Action Team. As a mother, I know it's important to take care of my health for those I care about. Part of doing that is knowing my risk for developing type 2 diabetes. So if I was you, I'll take the opportunity to visit inittogethersc.org and take an online test to find out if you have prediabetes. Again, the website is inittogethersc.org. This message is brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina.
In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. Hey, don't forget, we are streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page and on their YouTube channel. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. On that Facebook page, you can find so many great resources that are available for you to start a diabetes prevention program and also healthy eating and exercise tips. We're also streaming live on the home of Coping with COVID, which is the Tailor-Made Production page on Facebook. Please go over there and hit like and share and follow. Go to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, and also check us out on IG and also on Twitter. Hey, don't forget, scrolling at the bottom of the screen, we've got several resources available for COVID vaccinations, financial resources, and so much more. So please check it out and post and share so we can get the message to the masses. It's Black Music Month, and we continue our conversation from last week about the healing power of music. Algeron Wright is a multi-talented singer, songwriter, producer, and musician. His latest single, Created to Win, features singers Regina Skeeters and Algeron's younger brother, Thomas Wright, and it is blazing up the gospel music charts. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Mark Rapp is an accomplished musician and founder of Cola Jazz Foundation. It's a 501c3 dedicated to grow, support, and promote jazz in the Midlands through events, education, recordings, resources, and advocacy. The goal of Cola Jazz is to create a thriving, culturally rich community. Ebony Ram also joins us. She's an accomplished singer and also poet, and also works with Mark on Cola Jazz. And I hear some feedback from somebody. I'm not sure who it is, but thank you all so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Dr. Jennifer Rice is going to join us in just a minute, but I want to ask you first, Mark and Ebony, about Cola Jazz. I know that you started it. You started doing some advocacy work in the area, and then you launched it. Tell us a little bit about Cola Jazz Foundation.
Sure. Yeah, we started doing things back in 2014. And it slowly and consistently grew where it made sense to become a proper 501c3 nonprofit organization. And now we've grown to a 7-person board. We have annual programming that includes annual jazz festival, multiple summer jazz camps. We do outreach just about every week. We're in the schools. We're in the extended care facilities. We're doing after-school programming, in-school programming. We do some programming with Koger Center for the Arts. We do some content. We do a monthly listening series, do a lot of online activity. We have a ton of videos. We've recorded literally hundreds of jazz musicians from around the state. it's just incredible. I mean, we are busy, busy, busy.
That's great. That busy is a good thing. Busy is a good thing. Ebony, can you tell us why this was an important effort for you to join with Mark?
Well, I saw everything in the colored jazz that needed to be there, except for an attention solely for, or a department solely for youth. And so when I approached him, in, I think it was October 2018, we met at a coffee shop downtown, and I talked to him about what I do with youth in jazz, particularly children in jazz. And so we talked about going into the schools and things like that. He got back with me and said, yes, let's do this. First, he asked, what would I do? I the capacity, told him, and things have been gone there since.
Great. Awesome. Algeron, you're a musician, minister. Gospel is such a big part of the church experience. Music is such a big part of the church experience. How have you seen it soothe and heal and really help?
Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how many times, I have the opportunity to sing for different events or families that are hurting due to a funeral, or they've suffered loss, or they've had a, difficult time at work or just in life. And I get the opportunity to embrace whatever stage, whether it's in church, whether it's outside at a festival. I was just in Virginia Beach this weekend singing for Juneteenth, and just being able to deliver a message of hope and peace, songs like Created to Win that I wrote and sang. I have seen people literally their spirits lift through music. They're able to, there are tears that are coming out, but I believe those tears are more of that pressure being released, and those tears of joy versus those tears that happened while they were in that bad situation or that hurtful situation. It's a different type of tears, and you can just see the relief on people's face through music and the message that it brings.
Mark and Ebony, Mark, I see you there shaking your head. You see people deal with music in so many different areas, from education to in a relaxing settings, whether it be a big concert hall or a jazz club or a club. What do you think music does for people as far as a healing or a soothing situation?
Yeah, music is a powerful, powerful force. It's absolutely incredible. The things I've seen, we've done outreach at a Prisma Children's Hospital, and you'd see these kids, coming into the lobby, and they're wheeling their IV fluids, and they got all these things, and they just look, rough. I mean, they're fighting cancer, and they're 11, 10, 8 years old.
Yeah. And
they're there with their families, and they come in there, and we start playing some New Orleans music for them. And for a moment in time, they forget all about their problems. They have an energy. They're dancing. It's truly, truly healing. And that helps them. It helps them go to their next treatment, their next test. We had a family that specifically requested for us to come back the next week because they knew they were going to have a really difficult time. So we came back the next week and gave them that hour of rest to breathe and to re-energize. So from that to, we've been in the extended care facilities, and we were in there recently, and it was a little jarring at first. I walk in, and there's row after row of these older folks in their wheelchairs, and they're all hunched over. And at first, I just kind of was like, oh my God, just getting old sometimes sucks. And I had to remind myself, what? These are beautiful, beautiful souls.
These are people. Yeah.
They have lived a long time. They've got amazing stories. I'm going to talk to them, play for them the best I possibly can.
Yeah.
And then so you see them, they're all hunched over, and you start playing, and then you start to see this.
Wow.
And then you start to see like a head actually come up, or the foot tapping. And music brings life to you.
Yeah.
And then from our education, we in the schools, we reach some of these kids like Ebony and I, she's my partner in crime. We drive, we drive to places we never knew existed in this state. I mean, we were in Denmark, South Carolina. Who knew there was a Denmark?
I was gonna say, Algeron, aren't you from Denmark?
I'm from Swansea, Denmark.
Yeah, I mean, you're driving. There's nothing. Then all of a sudden, there's Sweden, there's Denmark, there's Norway. It's like, whoa.
And you think you've gone to another country, right?
Yeah. So anyway, these kids, a lot of these kids, this is predominantly a Black community.
Yeah.
And they have never heard of Black American music.
Yeah.
They never heard of Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Sonny Rollins or whoever. And so we have this great privilege and this great opportunity to introduce to them this music that has radically shaped American culture. And that has helped us through race relations and ongoing struggles with race relations. I mean, jazz music has been on the forefront, if not the healer of many situations. So we have this great privilege, and these kids, you start to see their eyes, they light up, and they didn't realize, oh my gosh, this music came from my people.
From my people, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Ebony, I want to bring you in this conversation, and I'm glad that Mark mentioned the educational piece, because I was going to mention that too, because we hear so much negativity about what's going on with our kids in schools and the fighting and the shooting and have you seen hearts mend and heal? Have you seen lives change? What have you seen with your bringing this music in the schools for these kids?
Well, one of the what I've seen, and actually have some of the teachers have told me, is that the kids really latched onto music and wanted to hear more about it when they got in the classroom. So we're making arrangements now to go back to those schools. And also, students who got special needs classes, their teachers said they really responded well. So they're using jazz now to teach in the class.
That's
so
awesome.
Play it a little bit in the background, different jazz songs, instrumentals, and they would teach. It would calm the kids down, and they noted an improvement in their skills too.
Yeah, we're going to bring Dr. Jennifer Rice back into the conversation. Dr. Rice, Algeron mentioned something about crying earlier, and he said that he knew it wasn't necessarily tears of pain, but it was tears of release. And it made me think, can tears really release? I know it does for me.
So the studies show that music actually does help reduce the body's level of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So, I would love to have been a part of some of those research studies, but, time and time again. So that's why you see a lot of these music therapy interventions in hospitals, like pediatric emergency waiting rooms. You'll see music in NICUs because the babies have to stay nice and quiet to help them recover. And so, low playing music helps with that. Music therapy has actually been used for pain reduction. You have some patients that are addicted to pain medication and they have to try everything they possibly can at music therapy. They actually use even music through counseling, but especially when you're talking about adolescents who don't necessarily want to sit down and discuss their feelings. A lot of times, you have some therapists that will actually use music as a means of connecting with the patient. So music actually it does. It helps reduce the body's level of stress.
Wow. So does that mean it actually lowers blood pressure and things like that too?
It can. And a lot of times I try and encourage my patients, I'm big into exercise, to get the music to actually motivate them to exercise. A lot of times people don't want to walk. I tell them to put on some of their favorite, songs that they grew up with and just dance. And it does. It helps to, release the body's your stress levels, which can end up bringing down the blood pressure. And also, one of the guests mentioned about going to a nursing home. They actually do use, music as therapy especially for like dementia patients, because they have no life until they hear some of the older songs from their childhood, and where they can't remember someone's name. They can't remember their spouse's name, their child's name. They can actually remember the lyrics to songs, and it calms them. And I even did music therapy when I was on bed rest with my twins. I actually was rolled to a room, and we did music therapy for ourselves and for our babies.
Wow. Wow. Is that Logan and Lauren?
Yes, that's Logan
Yeah.
and Lauren.
I just knew that because they're posting. I just said, go ahead. They've been posting all day, Logan and Lauren.
Yes, yes,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so that's awesome. Yeah, I thought when Mark mentioned that about the older people and how you could see that they almost transformed, Mark, when music came on. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, every opportunity we have to do these sort of things, many times I'll walk out of there with tears in my eyes. It's just so fulfilling. It's absolutely incredible how music reaches people and touches people and connects people. It's such a connector, and music, does away with the divide of what you look like. It does away with color, with your
Right.
financial standing, with how you sound, with your accents or whatever. It doesn't matter. It brings people together. It's incredible. And Algeron, mentioned that as well. He talked about how it brings people together. It's phenomenal. I'll tell you this real quick. My own experience. I recently had a major health scare. I was in the ICU. I had to be off my horn for a couple of months, and recently back playing. And I had a recent experience where when I have to talk to a lot of people in a big group, it still kind of affects my head. It's like I've got to work up my endurance for that still. But
me too, Mark.
It was also during sort of a jam session opportunity to play, and I told the other guy, I said, man, I just need to get on my horn and play. And he said, are you sure? Because you're kind of feeling it. So playing brings me to my calm place. Playing is where I can relax, and that's the testament of music healing me as I'm doing it. Music healing others as they're receiving it.
Yeah, I was going to ask if each of you, how has music impacted each of you? You just shared yours, Mark. What about you, Algeron? How has music impacted you or helped you, or healed you?
Absolutely, it has helped me. I'm a person. I've lost two of my brothers. My oldest brother was, murdered a few years ago, and then a couple of years ago, I lost a brother to a brain aneurysm. He was fine one day, and the next day he was gone. And so I decided to work on my healing through music. But there was a moment. I heard Dr. Rice talk earlier about it being physically affecting you and mentally affecting you, and it did. And so I decided to write and create material that can not only start the healing process for me. After I took care of the physical me, I started taking care of my soul, my spirit, the way I thought, the way I spoke. And so I started writing songs like Created to Win. And I started using my hurts to help others. My grandmother, who also had dementia, she died 6 months before my second brother. And so it was a lot to endure. But now I see my nephews have taken up music and producing music and singing. Those same nephews who lost their dads are now taking up that hymn of music. So that music has played a huge part in the healing process of my family. Now we can sing again. Where we couldn't sing just a couple of years ago. We wanted nothing to do with singing together, which is what always kept us together.
Right.
So it's been a healing.
That's so interesting. Music helped you sing. the same thing that probably gave you the pain was what brought you back to the music, so to speak. Ebony, what about you? How has music impacted your life?
Oh, it has helped me so very much. I use it as a healing source as well. Just went through a medical procedure, a couple of them. And so I'm currently healing. And I'm listening to jazz, and either on my headphones or just when I'm in the room or whatnot. And it has really lifted my spirits. I'll put it that way. It's really lifted my spirits and kept me out of a depressive state from being sick all the time. And as you can tell, I'm getting my breath back, or my endurance back when it comes to using my voice. But I've had to, and I've had others, friends that I know of that said the same thing. It helps them as well to come to a nice jazz concert. And they say music as a whole heals them. And I have to agree with that. But it was a healing that did me. It really got me into the jazz.
Dr. Rice, you mentioned that you had to use music therapy after the birth of your twins. Are there any specific conditions that people have that you would suggest as a medical profession that people can use to help them?
Anxiety, definitely. Even when I have patients in the office and I'm trying to get their blood pressure to come down, a lot of times I'll walk out of the room and tell them to put on some music some calming music, that they enjoy, so I could come back in and check it. So anxiety really is a big one, and even insomnia. So for some people that have difficulty falling asleep, I'll tell them to play, some relaxing music prior, so that way it can kind of help the brain to shut down so they can go to sleep. So
awesome.
I do that. I do that every night. I'm grateful to jazz and instrumental. Sometimes I just want to hear the music, so I'm a witness. It helps me just wind down.
Oh yeah, and that's probably the whole concept behind lullabies. I know I have custody of my two grands, 6 and a 3-year-old, and first of all, I got to sing 5 songs before I even leave. I have to sing a medley of hits, and then I can put on, the lullabies. So, and they love music, and it's just like you said, just the soothingness of music, and I love that. Mark, we looked a little bit at your website when you were talking earlier. We're going to bring it back up. Tell me what's going on with Cola Jazz. I am really so excited about what you're doing in the area with Cola Jazz. Was really geeked to hear that you even have a show on ETV. So, congratulations for all that you're doing. Tell us what's going on and how we can be involved and what you need the community to help you with.
Awesome. Well, if there's one thing you remember, just sign up for our newsletter and you will never miss a beat. So just sign up, go to colajazz.com/newsletter. You'll never miss a beat. You'll find out what all is happening. We've been doing a lot, and it's just really hard to keep track of. We've had this 13-show episode on South Carolina Public Radio, statewide radio show that was re-aired twice in the same year on public demand, which was fantastic. And they're redoing us for next year.
Awesome.
Or actually, the second season's coming out this fall. For Jazz Appreciation Month, we did 22 segments all about South Carolina jazz culture. Quick little 1-minute segments talking all about South Carolina jazz culture. That was a lot of fun to do. We just finished our jazz camp for middle school and high school and a weekend adult jazz intensive. We just finished that up. Coming up, our next big thing we're doing is our Cola Jazz Festival, which is the weekend of September 25th, 24, 25, 25, 26, whatever that Saturday, Sunday is. So that's the next big thing coming up. We've got some more programming at the Koger Center for the Arts. We've got our monthly Loft sessions, which is a really cool event, great listening series. We've got a couple of special ones that will be announced. We've got some outreach we're doing. We just did one yesterday. Oh gosh, the list goes on. So all I can tell you, just get on the e-newsletter and you'll be in good shape.
Awesome. And Algeron, we're going to listen to a little bit of your new song. Congratulations. I have been hearing it a lot on Sirius XM, and I know you have been out there a long time, so I'm so excited for your success. Tell us about what's going on with you.
Thank you, thank you. Well, first I want to say real quick, Mark, don't sleep on me. I can do jazz too now. So
Ah!
don't sleep on me.
Listen,
Call me.
gospel jazz is a thing. Gospel jazz is a thing.
Call me.
Well, and listen, but though Algeron, look, Kurt Whalum has a whole
Yes.
gospel according to. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
His whole gospel according to jazz thing, and I think is that Kurt Whalum also who does. I know when I saw him a couple of years ago at Biltmore. It seemed like he had a website or some kind of series where he was either reading the Bible or he was talking about the correlation between gospel and jazz.
That was Kurt Whalum. He's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Algeron.
He's awesome.
But
No.
Mark, don't sleep on Algeron.
Well,
look, if y'all get that gospel according to jazz thing together, please let me know because I'm gonna be there. I might sing a tune or two.
Let's look it in on a Sunday or something.
Hey, so real quick, Algeron. So this might be a beautiful coincidence. We are doing a concert with Benedict. So
wow,
we're going to do a little combination of jazz and gospel. Let me talk to them about bringing you on as special guest.
I will come.
That would be amazing. When is that going to happen, Mark?
I think that's in October. I've got to look at the calendar. I think it's mid-October or something like this. But yeah.
Wow. Let me know. I'd be happy to come. Well, I'm pushing Created to Win. I'm so grateful after years of being in this industry and working hard and trying to chart. Finally, worked with Black Smoke Music and got a song that got down to top 30 on the national Billboard charts. Was up for a Gospel Stella Award and those type of things. So I'm excited that after over 15 years of being in this industry, God's timing isn't my timing. So I'm excited about that. And so we're pushing the music along with my group, Triumphant Praise. I live right here in Columbia, South Carolina, but have gotten the opportunity to travel many different places. And Trey, you have always supported me, and I appreciate that. And that's for real. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. You're great talent and, you're doing your thing and I'm so glad for you. I love that you say, God's timing is not our timing, but listen, I believe, and Mark, I'm sure, and Ebony, and even Dr. Rice can attest to this. If you keep doing it, if you keep keeping on, if you keep, believing God's promise, then it'll happen when it's time. So,
that's right.
I love it. Listen, thank you. Algeron Wright, Mark Rapp, Ebony Ram. So glad you were able to come on. And Dr. Jennifer Rice, thank you all so much for joining us today on this conversation about music as a healer. I tell you, you can put children of all ages, races, gender in a room and put on some music and everybody just start moving. So I think if we have a child's heart and recognize that we are so much more alike than we are different, and music is such the source of commonality and such a healer. I thank you guys for joining us today for this great conversation. And let me know about October because I want to be in the place.
Me too.
Algeron, Mark, Ebony, thank you. And Dr. Rice, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
We appreciate
you.
All right. So listen, if you have a story or initiative that can help someone cope with COVID, please email booking@copingwithtreitailor.com, booking@copingwithtreitailor.com. If you have a product or service that can help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithcovid@treitailor.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. We're also sponsored by Palmetto Media Connections, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson, Black Pages, Black Expo, The Comet, also Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall, and Agape Counseling and Training Services. Tomorrow, we're going to talk with Dr. Jane Kelly. She is the retired assistant epidemiologist with SCDHEC. She's going to talk about monkeypox and an update on COVID, what we need to look out for during these summer months, and of course, the recent approval of COVID vaccines for children 6 months and up. Friday, we're going to do a Faith Friday session with about a local minority-owned pharmacy, Soda City Pharmacy. We'll talk to Tremaine Cooper about his journey and about his pharmacy located right here in Columbia, South Carolina. That and more coming up this week on Coping with Tre Tailor. As usual, we leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling. I didn't ask anybody to say a prayer. I think Algeron's gone. I was going to ask him to pray, but I didn't ask him in advance, so I don't want to just push it on him. But I will read this reading from Conversations with God. And this is so good. This is in the God Speaks chapter. It says, "There's no other name which you can call on. I am God. I put the sun, the moon, and the stars in the sky. Remember, I created all things, says God. I even created you. I know all about you. You have been faithful, and I am going to make you ruler over many. Your time has come, just like Algeron said, to reap and grow. You have sown a long time. It's time for you. This is your time because I love you. I will not leave you. I will not forsake you. Simply keep your mind stayed on me, and I will keep you in perfect peace. Trust me and let me do my work, for you will find peace in that." That's from Conversations with God from Dr. Cheryl Mims Williams with Agape Counseling and Training Services. I'm Tre Tailor. Thank you all so much for joining us today on Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. Until the next time, I wish you peace, abundant blessings. Take care, stay well, God bless, and don't forget to wear your mask because COVID's still out there. But you got to have it over your nose and under your chin. We'll see you later.
Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, learning the way that we thrive all together. Coping, finding out what's real. Coping, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal. Coping with stress, coping with strife, bringing hope for success, for improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive. Ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do. 6 ways to a better you. Coping, find peace of mind to survive